Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. I know your time is very valuable. We're going to do something that's probably a little different from some of the presentations you've seen already today. I want to touch on this slide for just a minute. I don't need to give you too much background on who Minacs is, but I want to give you a little bit for some context about the case studies that we're going to talk about today relative to a couple of our key lines of business, which are providing marketing programs and marketing services around managing the customer lifecycle for some major clients. And also, Sam's going to talk a little bit more about what we're doing in using BI and analytics to drive business process more efficiently to operate things like customer assistance centers, technical assistance centers, finance and accounting, back office operations, those types of things. So maybe a little bit different, and we're going to focus a little bit more on the business side and how we get value to the business out of what we're doing in BI versus more so the technology side. So we'll touch a little bit on that, but we'll focus a little bit more on the business side. So a couple things. We're focused on business solutions, partners, and delivering superior value all around business results. And why I touch upon those couple of things is solutions. So what we're really trying to do is to get those important insights from our business intelligence and analytics activities to really act upon something that can drive business value. That's critical to us. And I mentioned partners because as I look at this, you've seen some great technology here today, and I look at partners as to get the value, it takes a partnership with our clients, our channel partners, the users of the technology, and technology. For the most part, we're technology agnostic. Some of our clients have technology that we want to leverage into our overall solution, and we bring some of the technology that we think is effective to get the business results. So I wanted to touch upon those couple things before we dig in too deeply. And just a little bit about Minacs so you understand the type of programs that we run. I mentioned that we do customer lifecycle management programs. So for example, one of the case studies we're going to talk a little bit about today is in the automotive industry. We do various types of programs, including service and parts marketing programs, where the entire intent is to drive higher loyalty to the dealership that sold the vehicle and generate more service, part sales, which we know drives loyalty not only to the dealership for service, but also to the brand and the dealership for the next vehicle purchase. So a little background about us, we serve clients in automotive, manufacturing, banking, financial services, and we're using those programs that we do in those areas to drive better business value for those clients. Just something to touch upon here, we look at everything as how do we drive better business results. An important thing is by design. So what we're going to talk a little bit about is how we've designed the process from what we've learned in this space to more effectively apply business intelligence and analytic procedures to drive the business results. And you'll look at, down that list by design, data-driven analytics. That is a very key to us because through those programs, we have access to and we're managing an awful lot of large data sets that have a lot of detail about the dealership operations, who's coming in for service, what type of service they're having, how much are they spending on parts versus labor, and so forth. And then key over here is business insights. And that's what we're going to focus on today is driving insights or driving business value from those insights. And to us, it supports our plan of these five pillars, which is strategic and flexible, sustainable, focus on the customer experience, get value from the enterprise value chain. And on the business insight side, our entire process is built around being agile, flexible, and sustainable. So those are all important things to us. And most importantly, we're going to talk a little bit about, so how do you drive return on investment from this? Because that's what's critical. So lesson number one that we've learned along the way is there are two of us presenting here today, and that's for a specific reason. I come from the business solutions side of the business. I have much more of a business focus, and I'm focused with our clients in like a consulting ring. So I come at it from a view of what am I really going to learn that I can act upon that would drive the right result for my client. Sam comes at it from a little bit different view. While he has that perspective, he has much more of a deeper technical background. Our point is better business results if you drive also the architecture of the business solution and not just the technology solution. So what I'd say is one of the things we typically do in this space is we focus on the technical solution. And let me ask a question first of all. How many people in this room are from a strong technical background, meaning you write code, you do programming, you're setting up systems? Give me a show of hands here. Probably a little less than half, maybe 20%. And how many from a more of a business background, where you're a user and you're trying to run programs, do marketing activities? Okay, a little bit more. So from my perspective, I think you guys are in the right place when you bring those two viewpoints together to drive the business value. So a lot of us understand these things about looking at what all the data sources are and so forth, looking at how we're going to exchange, warehouse, and store data. And we probably spend a little bit of time down here in what are the user objectives and how are we going to get value from our business intelligence initiatives. So what we think about as we go through this process is we see and we all draw diagrams like this. Typical technical architecture diagrams that look at what are the data sources, how are we going to store it, how are we going to visualize it to our users. What I'd suggest we don't do a lot of and we need to do more of is architect a business solution. When we looked at some of the things that we do and you look at the real time spent and the real investment spent, we find in our history we've probably spent less than 10% of the real time architecting the business solution and more time trying to architect the technical solution. We think you want to do that a little bit differently. So why is it important to architect a business solution? We're going to start on the business results side. So when I say architect the business solution, what I'm looking at is, as you're thinking about your BI initiative, what we've learned is focus first on these basic things that seem intuitive, but spend a little more time and document it effectively so that you're investing in the right approaches and technology to drive the value. So look at your strategy. Seems simple, but you probably don't have the resources to do everything all at the same time really effectively. So is your strategy focused on growth, share, profit, innovation? Could be different. You may wait then and look at which one is most important for your organization. Then you want to look at the metrics. So when you have your strategy set, how are you going to measure what your baseline is and what your objective and goals are to drive the value that you're going to need to get the return on your investment for your BI initiative. And then valuable BI. To me, from a business user, if I can't find actionable insights that can drive business value, and business value typically for at least the companies that we work for is growth, revenue, profit. Now, if you're in a different area, it may be different for you, but those are the things that you want to look at a high level. So actionable insights and adjusting that strategy. And the other thing I'd say is architect for the vision. We heard a little bit about that if you were in the Hadoop presentation about looking at the things you can do and the ability to do larger things, but execute for the goals. So think about what are you going to do along the way to get incremental value from your BI approach. So I look at this then, starting on the right with what do we need to get done, what's going to drive value, then moving to the action layer, which key things, we see this. What are the functions? So we know about reports, alerts, dashboards, discovery, analytics. We want to have those functions, but we want to know who's really going to use what and how are you going to drive value from it. And then another thing you want to look at are who are the potential users. And when I say potential, think about that a little bit because everybody's excited about new technology. How many people in here attended the Microsoft presentation? That room was full. It's exciting. It's interesting. People are focused on that, and that's a good thing. But what you also want to look at then internally is who is really going to use your BI tool sets and take action to get value to your business. Not everybody necessarily has the skill set, nor the need, nor even the desire, once it's on their desktop, to use self-service BI effectively. And we also look at channel users. For example, in the automotive example that I talked to you about, we're looking at people at the dealership. What do they really need to know to run their service operations better? And what will they really do to take action if we give them insights about what parts are selling better? Who should get a message to come back to the dealership at what point in time? So we focus on who really needs what and how do we empower and measure the user actions and their results. So one of the things you want to look at is if you start out with a plan and you've got 30 people raising their hand in their organization that they really need these systems and these tools that you put in place, take a look and see who's really using them afterwards. You want to focus on the people that will drive value. So what I would say is we typically start over here at this end. We start at all of this neat, cool technology and all of the great things we can do, and we don't spend enough time on those first two parts. And it doesn't mean that it has to be significant time in length, but I'd suggest that you take the same type of disciplined focus that you see in the technology side that people with a technology background tend to be better at often than people in a marketing or a communications or business background. So I'd say spend more time here, get it right, and it'll help you on this end, choose the right tool sets. So that's the perspective that I come from. Sam comes a little bit more from the other side. When you bring them together, then we deliver better business results. And that's what we've seen through our experience running programs like marketing communication programs for major clients, and also programs where we're supporting customer assistance and technical assistance and things of that nature. So I tend to like to listen to people that at least showed some value in the world and done some things of interest. So one of the quotes that I heard from Colin Powell when I read his book was, "Pay the king his ransom first." So what does that mean? You have to think about who the king is, meaning who do you really need to drive value from this investment that you're making into your BI system. So first of all, look at your boss. Could be the CTO, different organizations. Typically, you're looking at potentially some significant investments. So you're going to be looking at the CFO, the CEO, the CTO, who are going to make the decisions about can we make that investment, how do we deploy it, how do we get our money back. And most importantly, in the end, it's usually the customer or the consumer. In the automotive example, we have a couple different customers. We have the business customer who we're running programs for. We have the dealer who's trying to optimize the number of consumers that are coming back into his dealership for service and parts, sell more of that, and get them in for the next vehicle. And then we have the end customer that says, we have to know how much they really want to be communicated with. What do they really need to know about their vehicle to make sure that it's maintained properly and they're getting effective value for the dollars you're spending to maintain that vehicle. And importantly, I would say, make sure these are all in alignment. Because if you do not have these in alignment, then what happens is you have different objectives going on. So just a little smart focus on the business side so that you get it all going in the right direction. And I'd say this, remember when you're trying to convince somebody to make the investments that you're going to need to deliver these types of results, it's not just about return on investment. You have to remember that, you're competing against a lot of different projects that are looking for money, that are looking for resources across the organization. So remember that when you bring a project to the table and you're looking for X dollars investment in infrastructure, let's say, or technology or tool sets, it's not only can you return an appropriate return on that, but what are all the other 10 projects? So that's where architecting the business side has made it easier for us to get the right people on board so that we can move projects forward internally and with our clients and get the investment we need to return that value. So the second lesson I'd say we've learned is act. We heard about it a little bit if you were in the Hadoop presentation where they were talking about get in the data and get dirty a little bit. I would say get dirty with a little vision of where you want to go on the business side, but act. So we all know this guy a little bit. And when you talk about acting, I say act with courage. You're not going to figure out everything at once. This is changing rapidly, as we heard from Rebecca earlier in the keynote. And the volume and the speed of all of that data We're not going to sit in one room today and figure out everything and architect a perfect solution. It is not going to happen, and there is no one perfect answer. There's a lot of good technology out there. There's a lot of ways to go about this. Focus on what will serve your business, drive that value, and serve the users of it. And I would say, remember, you can fake courage a little bit, and if you remember the beginning of that movie, we saw that, and people will slap you in the face along the way. You're going to have a lot of people with different opinions about what the right ways to do it, but stay on the road and stay focused on the business results and make sure you architect that business side. And now what I wanted to focus on a little bit here was speed. So if you do this smartly, you can move very quickly. And number one, if you think about race car driving and so forth, it's all about teamwork. So when I was talking about partners earlier, make sure you take a look at all the great technology providers that are here today. Depending upon your needs, your infrastructure, and your clients, different tool sets can work effectively. But I would say, think of integrate, configure, don't think build and customize. You can do a lot of this with very good technology that's available. Technology like Hadoop, for example, or the Microsoft stack, whatever works for you. And I'd say you don't have to build all the parts, so take advantage of that. And then integrate technology and partners for speed. When I say partners, I mean partners both that may provide you technology stacks and tools, but also the partners in that business channel that need to be users, adopters, and advocates of the intelligence you can drive from your system. And the last point here, communicate with the driver, exchange actionable insights. In our case study, for example, on the automotive side, we have a group called our dealer services group. And what they do is they help dealers manage and operate the service marketing programs. Some dealers do a very good job, some others do not. But we're getting information back and forth continually through our systems and through the reports and the business intelligence tool sets we put on their desk to continually improve the delivery of the intelligence back to that group so they can improve their service operations. I wanted to touch upon this just a little bit. I'm not going to go through all this, but what I wanted to talk about here was the ability to act with speed. So what we've deployed is basically we're using what we call an Agile development methodology. So what I want to point out here is there's some different ways to do this. Whoops. It'd be better if I hit the right button. So over here, quick start and workshops. What we've done in some of our deployments is we look at, for a quick start, depending on the type of technology solution, and it can apply to business intelligence stacks also, is start with good technology out of the box. And in workshops, what we do then is we look at the gap between what out-of-the-box technology and capabilities can do, and we start burning down that gap. And it allows us to move much more quickly to market and start getting value in those early wins out of your systems and processes. And then we go into what we call a weekly Agile sprint process. And that's what I'm showing over here, and I'll give you a little more detail on that. But the key is, you're not going to solve this in a day or a week, but we want to move quickly along the way towards solving it. So, in the act mode, with the intent to move quickly with speed, once we set up the core environment, if you will, or the core processes and the technology, we use this process that we call weekly Agile sprints. And the whole intent is to, on a weekly basis, keep driving value quickly towards what's most important. So it's simply a process that gives you the ability to do what this guy, our governor in Michigan here, always talks about, relentless positive action. So each week we have meetings beginning of the week, we have a specific list of tasks we're moving forward, and then we have an end of week meeting. So we're applying our resources where they'll provide the most value to delivering the continually improving solution. And then I'm going to move on to some of the things we've done to date. So lesson number 3 is distribute actionable insights. Remember when I talked about dealers and field and manufacturers? Very basic start here. So what we were doing here was using the data we had, accurate information, reliable, giving them basic salary reports. Things like how many people came in, what was the return on my investment, how many people responded, and putting that in the hands of the users at the dealership, in the regional environments, who could then look and say, what dealers are doing well, what types of customers are coming in, how do I improve? That was the start point. Next thing, we're talking with the individual people and getting feedback and putting tools, simple tools in place that give them the ability to get information more quickly, look at interactive graphical comparisons of how they're doing compared to other users, other dealers, other parts of the company like national versus regional, etc. From there, what we've done is we've continued to advance to making it more graphical, giving users the ability to do things like schedule when they want reports coming to them, and giving the users the ability to drill down, sort, filter, and start mining their own information to operate more effectively. So we believe from our experience that there's 3 important lessons that we've learned in helping the channel partners get more value from our BI initiatives. And that's, as I said earlier, architect that business solution. Think of it with a little bit more detail, you'll get it a little bit tighter, and you'll get better results in the end. And then act. Think of the process of integrating technology, a collaborative approach where you can get a lot of insights from your organization, your partners, technology partners, but yet move quickly along the line and distribute those actionable insights. And if you'll notice, I keep using the word actionable insights. From our view, if you're putting information in the hands of people that can truly take action, and you can draw the correlation from that action to increased revenue, increased return on your investment, higher sales, it gives you the chance to go back to that CEO, that CFO if you need to get more investment before moving further along. So a couple things that we think support this. This happens to be a report from Aberdeen Group on Agile analytics. And if you look, no surprise here up in the upper right, increasing changing demand for management information. These are one of the top pressures driving the need for Agile analytics. And then the growing volume of source data. That's what we talked about and heard about from Rebecca. No surprise there. And then the bottom one, users increasingly need to make decisions anywhere, anytime. Another thing important here is self-service analytics. So as you can see, so users can drill down to detailed information. The top performers, 79% are saying that's important to them. That's, again, to us, distributed analytics. Put those insights in the hands of users that can take action and get better business results. And it allows the BI users to, in the second point here, tailor the BI to their needs and let people be able to manipulate and change charts and go further. And then third thing they noted here is the leaders automate where possible. So we're automating along the road. So with that, I'm going to pass it off to Sam. And Sam is our director of BI. And he's going to talk a little bit about how we're doing some new and innovative things in the business process side.
Thanks, Tom. Good afternoon, everybody. As Tom mentioned, we are very tool agnostic. Me personally, I've worked with pretty much every BI stack, ETL stack, database stack out there, and it's served me well because it allows me to look at a solution not from just a technical perspective, as Tom has mentioned, but we want to focus on what value does it bring to the business. I want to give you a little bit of background around contact centers and how we can use data, mine the data that's in that type of business, and how have we used that side of the operations to actually bring actionable insight. And I'll probably try to bring in a little bit more from a technical perspective or how we implemented some of these things. But as well, I'm not going to talk about the technology we used, but more around the practices and principles. Contact centers, call centers, whether it's through calls or emails or chats, whether it's tech support, care, retention, collections. You guys have all been either called for marketing, or you need to reach somebody to change your billing or change your plans. We all have interactions with contact centers. And traditionally, contact centers like to look at data in a certain way. Two main dimensions really come into play I want to share with you. One is the individuals. So the agent, the team leader, how the people in that hierarchy perform. They care about that type of metrics. The second area is around the aggregation, the line of business, the site, the campaign. So those two key dimensions are what generally has traditionally driven call centers and contact centers and how they manage their performance. Now with contact centers, the larger you are, the more contact points you have, the bigger the data. So we are in a big data environment, obviously, with the volumes we have, the variety we have, and I'll share a little bit more about what that, how that applies to us. Obviously, the four big V's are all relevant to us: veracity and variety. In terms of information delivery, traditionally it's been more around reporting, burst reports, can reports. That's kind of in the way things have generally been in the industry. But it's also been evolving, dashboarding, scorecarding, just like every industry, it's evolved in terms of its BI practices, as well as alerting and ad hoc querying as well. You guys have seen variations of this maturity model. Where do we want to go? Where are we at? And for every industry, for every company, it's not always about achieving the level 6. Sometimes it doesn't make sense to achieve level 6 because that's not part of your place, or it's not the value add to get to that level. Most companies generally are in the level 2 to 4. They'll try to achieve that level. But now what we're seeing is, even though our clients have traditionally been focused in the first 3 levels of the maturity stack, we're seeing that more and more clients are actually coming back to us and saying, we want more insight. We want you to tell us what will happen next. How are things can we do better? And it's really driving the whole mandate of, we need data faster, we need to be more predictive, we need to do more prescriptive, we need to be able to process real-time data, we need to be able to mine that data quickly and have it available to our people, or even to the point where we want to embed that intelligence so that machine learning is going to help with the decision-making process, not just relying on an analyst trying to figure out what that insight is as well. In terms of the information management stack that we have to deal with, me being the IT leader here in information management, I have a lot of challenges that I have to deal with. Hundreds of data sources. So I don't have one CRM, I don't have one ERP, I have a lot of different CRMs that I have to integrate because different clients insist we be on this technology, whether it's on PeopleSoft, whether we're going to be on SAP or whatever, or Siebel. We need to bring data, either we house that data in technology for them on their behalf, or we need to pull data, or they send us data from those systems to integrate. So that's another challenge we have to deal with, client-owned versus internally owned, as well as different types of sources, right? Systems, flat files, CSVs, portals as well. So that obviously causes a challenge. Data governance is a big program that we are investing in. Because we have multiple source systems from multiple clients, internally and externally, we also need to make sure that the data is being governed and managed, whether is it reliability of the data, the content, the consistency, the meaning of that data, and how does that all integrate? Multiple regions. So some of our clients belong to multiple countries and multiple regions, multiple time zones. And also, for us, we have employees all across the world. So you can imagine integrating all that employee data into a master data management solution to ensure that we are paying our people accurately and billing our clients back accurately as well. And in the world of unstructured data, we have to deal with speech analytics, listening to calls, transcribing that data, and using that for actionable insight. Other data such as chat, email, survey data, we can mine that and look for actionable insight as well. Social media has become the new thing. We're investing in a social media command center that allows us to look at how social media is impacting our clients and how can we integrate that data as well for more insight. And obviously machine data. So with a lot of technology, with call switches, we want to mine that data to see if there's a prediction, there's insights that we can take to our clients that can help them generate more sales, increase revenue, increase profit as well. So I'm going to go through a case study we did with one client to really tackle the question, customer satisfaction, can we actually predict it? And the approach we took was, I want to walk you through is we took an approach I want to share. What was the data set that we were looking at? What were the influencers that we found? And what was the outcome? And what is the future? And what is possible with this scenario? Starting with the approach, with folks here, you have experience working with data. It's about acquisition to start. What kind of data do we have available to be able to answer this business question? And understanding to be able to understand what the drivers are, we want to also understand what data could we use. So some of the data we had that we own is part of our technology, the call data we have, for an example. Some data is owned by the client, the customer profile that called in to express their satisfaction or dissatisfaction. We also want to acquire external data to leverage, to understand more about that customer in terms of context, demographic, what area they belong to, what are the buying patterns. Any of that type of information could be relevant. And also back to the internal side, we also looked at the people that service the customer. What do we know about them? And I'll share with you some of the interesting insight that we were able to bring just because we brought in as much dimension of data that we thought could be influencers to this question. With acquisition and preparation, then we spent time modeling that data. But what we did do was we reviewed it, but we also did iterative review, and did we have to acquire more data? So some of the data that we acquired, we actually didn't look at in the beginning. But when we reviewed the models, we noticed more insights or more actionable items that we wanted to drill down further. And that led us to acquire more data, more preparations, updating the models, build separate streams of modeling, and there was a very iterative process. And part of that process also involves checkpoints with the business. So making sure that, hey, are we on the right track? Do you guys already know this information? And I'm just reiterating the same things you already know? Or is there extra insight that they can provide as they see that data that could explain or not explain what's going on? And that kind of iteration and back and forth, so instead of just us taking the question, building a solution, and coming back to the client and we're good to go, we allow that interaction because it allows us to reshape, and we've reshaped that model over a number of iterations to improve where we got to. So again, the data sources we looked at, the customer profile data. We pulled data from a client portal. We grabbed internal call data from our switch. We looked at customer profile data that the client provided. We went and looked at other performance measures of our call center agents to see what other influencers or correlation that we can infer from other metrics that you might not naturally think that they're related. The employee profile as well as external data that we wanted to acquire from the client about demographic data about the client or even the product as well. So we bring all that together, we integrate that data, and obviously we use that in ways that we can mine that information. I wanted to share with you kind of a world visualization. These were all the influencers we found that actually contributed to customer satisfaction or dissatisfaction. And just to let you just to see that those are some of the key influencers, and obviously the bigger the ones are the ones that actually had a higher correlation. But this was one way we actually used to show visually the influencers. Instead of just listing out, these are our top 10 influencers, and here's the statistical relevancy of those metrics, we actually did this as a visualization, and we actually started it with, hey, which ones did you think were the influencers? And it actually was shocking when we saw that some of the things that really stood out was gender. We actually found that gender actually had a correlation, a strong correlation to satisfaction. We also had other factors around the product itself, the duration of the call actually was a driver as well. So those types of insights we were able to share with our client, and certain combinations of these drivers actually led to other insights as well that actually led to actionable items. So as we shared the models, we shared the results. That wasn't just a bunch of stat guys and data scientists in the back coming with some numbers and models. We actually want to validate with our clients, with our operations people, to say, does this make sense, or why it doesn't make sense, and perhaps drill deeper for further investigation. So the immediate insights was we wanted to target those certain profile combinations. Why was it that female agents that talked on this much amount of time during this on weekends had a lower chance of getting a survey completed, which led to a lower score of satisfaction? Is that a training opportunity? Is that a coaching opportunity? Is there a way we can change how our customers call in? So we recognize up front that this customer has a certain profile. Maybe we want to direct them to a certain team that meets that profile a lot better, so that we can have that actionable items allow them to get better satisfaction, because there's a better propensity for those people to help the customer better. So in terms of the future, what can we also do with this model? This client is not on speech analytics, so that's one opportunity where if we brought speech analytics in and mine that text data, can we bring that together and find a correlation? There's keywords or key phrases that's involved that can actually drive satisfaction or training. More demographic data that we want to look at that we weren't able to mine because we only got a subset of certain customer attribute data that the client provided. Social media and sentiment. Is there a correlation between how happy that customer was in general? For instance, if a service was down, it doesn't matter how well you serve that customer, their service was down and they're not getting it back up, they're not going to be satisfied regardless of how you talk to them, right? So maybe some things are outside of the control of that agent and you can't really penalize them for that. We also talk about how can we embed intelligence in the process. So instead of having someone make the decision, can the machine make the decision for us around call routing based on the profile, around how real-time prediction. Could you imagine if an agent sitting there in real time, it would tell you what's the percentage that that person's going to be satisfied, and if that dial moves up and down as you talk real time, as the duration grows and things like that, will that change how you operate? And same thing with around guided recommendations and action. This is something new that we're taking it to, is instead of an agent figuring out what to do or what to do next, we want to actually provide them that insight when they go into that calls, that they already know there's 3 things they need to know about that client that we've highlighted that will actually influence their decision as well. On behalf of Tom and myself, I'd like to just thank you for the opportunity for us to share some of the insights we've gathered. I think we have time for 5 minutes for questions. It could be anything around what Tom has talked about, what I've talked about, a little bit deeper on some of the slides as well. I'd like to open that up for questions. Okay. I know. Been there.
Everybody's still awake, right? I'd just like to say, everybody, thank you for your time today. I hope you've enjoyed the conference so far. There's still some excellent speakers to come. And I'd like to thank the team from Marriott. They've done a fabulous job in organizing this. And all of the people here have been very helpful. So if any of you have a question or are looking for anything, please find the team in the blue shirts because they're just wonderful to work with. Thank you all for your time.